Hey guys, it's Arena. Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to our Inspire Me series where I sit down and talk with people who are both inspirational and successful in their fields of work. And I'm so incredibly excited to introduce to you our guest today. He's a 13-time world champion breakdancer. He's also the first Asian to break into the global breaking scene. He's also the first to develop and launch a criteria-based judging system. And he's also listed in the Guinness Book of World Records. So hi Dyzee and welcome.
Ah, thanks. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, we are too. Okay, so you have quite the inspirational story. I mean, obviously we can't tell your whole life story. It is so interesting. I tell you all the time, it's like a movie. But we're gonna sort of condense it and talk about some questions I'm sort of really dying to ask you.
Okay.
So the first is, now you have traveled all over the world, over 100 cities, over 30 plus countries, competing and judging. You were also in music videos, you were in commercials. I mean, you're basically, for anyone who's, any b-boy or b-girl watching right now, you're basically living the dream.
Man, well, I love it. Of course, like I'm living the dream. I think that's what everyone would love to do is, you know, just do something you love, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're doing something that you love to do, then it doesn't really feel like work, right? The only hard part about it is that if you're an artist and you're living off an artist wage, right, then that might be difficult, you know? So when I was living with my family, my mother, you know, I didn't have to pay for rent and all that kind of stuff, man, this was the best. That is the dream because, you know, you have no obligations. Every time you travel somewhere, it's just money in your pocket. But after you grow older and you get married and you have a baby, which I just had a baby.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thanks.
She's adorable. She's one of the cutest babies.
Yeah, then you start to think, okay, it's got to be more than this, you know, and so it's great. I love it, but now it's time to think of a bigger picture. I mean, still involved in breaking, but something bigger for everybody.
Yes,
right?
which we'll talk about in a little bit. Now, of course, though, you had your struggles in life. You had a pretty rough upbringing as well, rough childhood. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I guess it starts off with, you know, my mother and my father, they split up before I can remember. And statistically speaking, right, like young boys who grew up without their father around enough, you know, not that my father was never there, I saw him every 2 weeks, but a boy growing up in a split family is statistically so much higher to end up joining a gang, right? So being in Toronto during that time in the 90s, I know you were there, it was very gang-oriented. Everyone had to be part of a gang because if you weren't part of a crew, there's a good chance that you're going to be picked on, bullied, or beat up. I was bullied when I was young, when I was in grade 8. So when I went to high school, I thought it was all about getting people, you know, getting respect from people by having them be afraid of you. So I ended up joining gangs and stuff like that. And that's, And subsequently, the gang kind of lifestyle, I mean street gang, which is not gangster in terms of like, okay, let's extort people, but it's about like, you know, having a large group of friends, showing everyone not to mess with you, being a tough guy. But that's where I learned breaking from, right? So there was some good to it actually.
And you told me that actually breakdancing comes originally from the gang culture, which I had no idea about.
So it started in the Bronx in New York, which is actually would be considered, if you've seen how it was in the Bronx in the late 70s, it was like a totally decimated city, right? Because there was like, economically it just was in ruins, you know, buildings were set on fire so that the landlords can collect the insurance. So it looked like it was a war zone. And a lot of street gangs grew up out of it in order to protect their neighborhoods, right? So it was such a bad, it was probably considered one of the worst gang destroyed, infested times, you know, in USA history. And out of there evolved breaking, like hip hop, right? Hip hop culture, right? And it was and it takes so much from a gang lifestyle, and like in terms of like, you know, how you join a crew, and then when you take breaking, like battling, and street fights, it's very similar in the sense of like the intent, right? So in a street fight, you're beating up somebody in the street because you want to bust their ego, show them they're nothing, and show your dominance, and you know, and same thing with battling. You're doing the exact same thing, but without actually touching each other. You know, you're using your skills, your talent, everything you can to destroy that person's ego, and everyone's standing around screaming, going, oh,
Now I'm actually starting to see the parallels, but I didn't know that it was so closely related to gang culture.
Yeah.
Now, like breakdancing is so different. Like I think even for me to not know that it comes from gangs, I think a lot of people have a much healthier image of breakdancing now. Do you think that breakdancing is straying away from the whole gang culture?
Yes and no. Because of its roots came from the gang culture, I believe that it's important for certain elements like the whole removing each other's confidence. That part of the culture should always exist. You know what I mean? Because that's what makes it what it is. Otherwise, we become something else, right? We lose who we are. But at the same time, I'm not telling young kids, well, if you want to keep it real, go move to the ghetto and join a gang. You know, so I don't want that to be part of it either. But it's a fighting dance. You know, that's what it's supposed to be about, right? And I think that if more people are from the ghetto are involved in this, it would be a much safer place. Right? So it's part of it is my mission to, you know, give back to like, you know, help the streets out, you know, clean it up a bit by this culture.
Because you were saying that it was essentially breakdancing that saved you and pulled you out of the whole gang.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, what it did was it took away my time, and a lot of young kids that are from the streets that grow up without a father figure, they try to learn about what it means to be a man in the wrong way, you know, like. And so what this does is it teaches you a lot about respect, right? Like what is respect, right? And in a positive way. So the cool thing about battling is you battle, you know, you get all your anger and frustration out in a healthy way without actually killing the other person, right? Maybe spiritually, mentally, you know what I mean? You can do that, and it's okay because you can shake hands after. But nobody wins every battle, and so the feeling of being humiliated and being destroyed, it humbles you, right? And there's some respect that is learned. So all these b-boys in my generation from the 90s, we have this special bond because we know that if you were breaking in the 90s, you must have seen some crazy stuff. Like, you know, you must have gone through a lot of stuff. So, but through battling and through all the things that we've gone through of having a lot of beef with each other, we now all have respect for each other. We can look at each other and be like,
So, I mean, you obviously have like your own style, and that's what you're famous for. Can you tell us a little bit about that style?
Well, a lot of people know me for two major styles. One is footwork, right? Like I have my legs move like, you know,
like a windmill.
Like they just fly around and they spin around, and some people say that's the reason why my name is Dyzee, because my feet make you dizzy. And another style I have is a style called threads, where I everything threads to the next thing.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and it's like an illusion style.
Okay, let's talk about confidence, because I feel like whenever I see you dancing, you're so confident. Like in your Instagram videos, like in your YouTube videos, even just competing against people, you're so confident. And it's like, where do you get that confidence from? How, like, is there a formula, like, to, you know, how do you get so confident?
Well, I mean, once again, there's two things. When I teach my students about, I tell them that the first thing you have to understand about breaking, about hip hop and battling, is that it's 50% is about confidence and 50% is about skill, right? And the whole game is to remove your opponent's confidence and you win.
Wow.
But at the same time, that's what they're trying to do to you, right? So it's kind of like a boxer saying, hey, when you get in the ring, just remember one thing: don't get knocked out. Right? You know. So what I teach them is I say, hey, there's in confidence, you actually have to practice it, right? You know, and this is where I find that you become immortal on the dance floor, is when part of it is really digging deep down inside of yourself and finding out where that confidence lies. You know, like what are you confident in yourself? You know, what are you good at? Know exactly who you are. Know your weaknesses and your strengths, and then when you understand the full situation, then you know you're gonna have confidence in yourself. Now that's not easy. That's hard, and that takes time. But the other side is completely faking it, right? Like completely trying to get into that feeling of complete confidence and practicing it, being in front of the mirror and getting into that character.
Because dancing is like body language, right? And you're using it to tell the other person, hey,
exactly. B-boying is a language, actually. Everything, every step, every movement has a meaning or a purpose.
Wow.
Yeah. So the moment you take those two things, we're actually finding it deep down inside your heart and your soul, and faking it over here, and once you can combine them and meet in the middle, that's when you become immortal on the dance floor.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Where it doesn't matter if anyone does anything, like no one can ever beat you because you'll always have that confidence, you know, that you'll always portray it.
Yeah.
And that's how I actually beat people, because when I know that they don't understand that, I know there's the faking it part,
Yeah.
and it's only their real talent of confidence. I know there's a way to get into a back door to get into their mind and destroy their confidence. You know?
Yeah. So when you are competing against someone, do you watch their videos beforehand, or
Of
do
course.
you? Oh, you do.
Yeah, of
Oh,
course.
okay.
I study these days it's all tournament based, which is not really that great. But back in the day, it's all about who you beat, right? Every battle counts. So of course I would watch all my possible opponents, and I would look at them and say, and put myself in that position. If I ever see that guy, and we're standing face to face, what would I do? And I would you know, put myself into that moment, right? And then when I actually do end up battling them, I already know what to do. I already know what they're gonna throw at me, and I already am ready for every single thing they did. And so that's what makes like those special moments, you know, like when you battle and you're really in a hard situation where this person does the most amazing thing and everyone's laughing in your face, but you come back with a witty answer and you take them out. It's those moments that make things legendary, meaning people will remember it forever.
Wow. You know? So for you, it's like visualization is so important.
Yeah.
Wow.
For confidence, definitely visualization. You know, knowing everything about that moment, right, and waiting for that moment to come, and then seizing that moment.
Wow. Okay. Okay, Dyzee, let's talk about the plan.
Oh, okay.
The plan. What is the plan, and why are you moving to Taiwan? And tell us all about that.
To give a little backstory, you know, I grew up, you know, in Canada, where, you know, you have like the government takes care of everything. You don't have to worry if you're rich, poor, just healthcare. There's no worries. So I never really cared about money my whole life until, you know, I started to I had a girlfriend, moved out of my house, you know, got married and all these things. And so I realized I was the #1 b-boy in Canada. I had my own events company with my own office, and there was 3 people working. You know, I had I was judging all the events, opening up like studios, doing commercial work. And some days I'd have money, and then other days there'd be no money, like other months, and I would be like, why is it that I'm the #1, but I'm struggling
to pay the bills?
I'm struggling with bills, you know, like it doesn't make sense. Like basketball players do it, singers, rappers, DJs, and now recently graffiti writers are selling their art for hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I'm like, why am I struggling? And so I moved. That's the reason why I moved to Korea, because during that time, mid 2000s, Korea was like, it was the whole world, b-boy world was looking at Korea.
I remember that actually.
You would turn on the TV and you'd see battles, you would see, you know, like fans screaming. And so I said, hey, I'm gonna move to Korea, and I knew that the most important part was judging, right? Like, so I had a judging system that developed in Toronto, and I brought it to Korea, and I brought it all around the world. And so that was the first step. But now I've learned throughout the 8 years after working with an amazing company that's not around anymore, but I learned why b-boys can't make money, and I found the answer. And so now I'm moving to Taiwan to take the plan, which is gonna create a professional battling industry where breakers are gonna become the next, like, a mix between athletes and K-pop or pop stars, and they're gonna start being able to make a living just from battling.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And you also told me that you want eventually b-boying to go into the Olympics as well.
Well, that's kind of funny.
Which is a huge dream.
Well, actually, this year breaking is going to the Youth Olympics.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yay.
So hopefully that the people who are in charge of that are not going to mess it up, because skateboarding went to the Youth Olympics, and now it's 2020. It's going to be in the main Olympics.
Wow.
Right. So it actually passed. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm really hoping that breaking is going to pass the Youth Olympics and go to the main Olympics, because I have already tons of investors that are looking for the plan and saying, you know what, if the prototype in Taiwan works, we'll definitely consider it, but if it goes to the Olympics, we're all in.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And so,
yeah.
that's where we're at right now.
Yeah. I mean, you've done a lot of pretty good stuff as well. Like, what is the most fulfilling project you've ever worked on?
Oh, well, besides the plan, which is my most fulfilling project, because it deals with all b-boys all around the world and b-girls.
Yeah.
I think it would be going to the Philippines, which is my my family, where my family's from, and just developing the scene over there. Like it was when I first went there, in 2000. Well, I first went there to escape the gangs when I was like 17, 18 years old. If I was there for 6 months on a one-way ticket, and it completely changed my life. Seeing how kids were so poor, begging on the streets, and it made me realize, wow, I'm pretty selfish, right? Like, in Canada, like, when you see, there was a young girl begging at the car window, and she looked exactly like my baby sister. And that's what really kind of like softened my heart a lot. So I said, when I came back again for a family reunion, I went to go search the b-boys, and I found them, and I found that they were like living like really poor. And I said I vowed that I would come back and I would make a way. So I came back again in 2010, and I went to each crew and I trained them, and I helped to usher a whole movement in the Philippines. And now they have a pretty thriving scene, a lot of b-boys and b-girls, and they understand the culture very well. And at least they're doing something positive instead of being like, in the gangs or doing drugs and stuff like that. At least they're like, doing something positive in their lives.
Let's talk a little bit about your family. When I asked you before about your role model or somebody who's been such a positive influence in your life, you talked about your wife. And I love how even just on social media too, you're so proud of your family. Like you can tell you love your family so much. Tell us about, your wife and your baby girl, how it's changed your life.
I think my wife is probably the biggest learning experience of my life, right? Because, one of the things when I was young is I always wanted to understand girls, right? Like I just could not understand how girls think. But after being married to one, learning about her and really connecting and trying to put down my pride and understand things, that it really helped me to grow myself, right? And so she's introduced me to so many things about life, totally outside of breaking, you know? And I really learned a lot. I would never been getting into business and becoming an entrepreneur and learning about how the world really works, because I was really in my own bubble. And she really opened up my mind to like different cultures, manners, things like that. And she's still doing a lot of work on me actually, And,
I see that.
But when I had my daughter, when we both, we had our daughter at a late stage. We were already both 38, and we thought we already given up on having a baby. We're like, you know what, it probably will never happen.
Oh, I had no idea.
So we were trying for a long time, right? Like 8 years, So we were like, you know what, it's probably never gonna happen, but it finally did. There's a whole crazy story around that, but it happened, and once I held my daughter in my hands, my whole life view changed. Everything changed. It was like, it's amazing, and
But you also said before, like when you look at your daughter, like nothing else matters, even breaking.
That's the interesting thing about it, is like after having my daughter, I realized that certain things just don't really matter anymore. And that's like breaking, hip hop, the whole beef and all these things, it doesn't matter. But what is interesting is that I realized that even though that doesn't matter to me, I have to do it better than ever for my daughter, So this doesn't matter anymore like it used to, but I need to do it better, and I need to succeed with this, not just for me, not just for the whole community, but also for like, the loves of my life, which is my wife and my baby.
Okay, before we wrap up this video, I always do like a little game with my guests. I left it sort of as a surprise. So it's basically a game of this or that. I just give you 2 items, and you have to just answer, obviously, very quickly. Just pick one, okay? This or that. First one, dog or cat?
Cat.
Oh, really? Beer or wine?
That's so hard because I love beer. It's so delicious, but then it's bad for me. It's making me sad, but wine is good for me, so I'm like, ah.
Okay. Phone call or text?
Text.
Oh, morning or night person?
Morning now, night my whole life, but now morning because of my daughter.
Oh, you're an ajashi. Toronto or Seoul?
Oh,
is this a really hard
these
one?
These are so hard because Toronto is my home, like I want
to
go
pick
back,
this
but
one.
Seoul is like, okay, Seoul.
Oh, too hot or too cold?
I like too hot.
Okay, nice car or nice house?
I like nice house.
Adobo or samgyeopsal?
Sorry, my fellow Filipinos, but samgyeopsal
Ah!
changed my life.
Boat or plane?
Oh, definitely plain.
Ballet or modern dance?
I would say modern dance.
Okay, chips or cookies?
Oh, I love cookies. I love Oreos.
Oh, sweet tooth, huh? Country music or classical music?
Oh, definitely classical music.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I love classical.
Ninjas or pirates? I think
Oh.
I know the answer.
Ninja, for sure.
Okay, last one. Suit or sweats?
Oh, that's a hard one.
Suit or sweats? Come on.
Suits.
Okay.
I look good in the suits.
All right. Okay, thank you so much, Dyzee, for spending time with me and talking about everything. You're such an inspiration. Now, if you want to check out any of Dyzee's stuff, you can go on his Instagram. He has a personal YouTube page as well where he does tutorials and vlogs and anything that involves b-boy culture. He also has an official website as well. You can go to www.dyzeediaries.com. Yeah, thanks so much.
All right,
We'll
that's
see you next time.
awesome.
Have an amazing time in Taiwan, and honestly, I secretly wish you guys would come back.
Yeah, I think we'll be back.
Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys, and we will see you guys next week. Bye. 안녕.